Saad Ghaya's parents were born in Pakistan, but immigrated to Canada and became Canadian citizens. At that time, Pakistan did not allow dual citizenship. They were Canadian and not Pakistani citizens in 1987 when their son was born right here in Montreal. Saad Ghaya grew up in Oakville, Ontario, and has always lived in Canada. In his late teens, he became involved in what has been dubbed the Toronto 18 bomb plot, an al-Qaeda-inspired plan hatched by Jordan-born Zakaria Amara targeting a number of buildings in Toronto. He later pleaded guilty to his involvement and was sentenced to 18 years in prison. He did not admit to knowing the magnitude of the bomb plot and maintains that he would not have participated had he known that people would be hurt. Despite his having been born in Canada and holding no other passport, the government of Canada has moved to revoke Saad Ghaya's Canadian citizenship under Bill C-24, the Strengthening Canadian Citizenship Act. They claim that because Pakistan has recently loosened its position on dual citizenship, Ghaya's parents are Pakistani citizens and passed on that citizenship to their son. This would allow the government to revoke his Canadian citizenship under the new law. Ghaya does not agree that he can claim Pakistani citizenship. Saad Ghaya is believed to be the only Canadian-born citizen to ever face the prospect of being stripped of his citizenship for any reason. Bill C-24, officially titled an Act to Amend the Citizenship Act and to make consequential amendments to other acts, features one particularly concerning amendment. Bill C-24 allows the government to revoke the citizenship of dual citizens or those who are eligible to claim citizenship in another country if they engaged in certain actions contrary to the national interest of Canada while they were Canadian citizens. It permanently bars these individuals from reacquiring citizenship. The individual bears the burden of proving that he or she is not eligible for citizenship in another country. This decision is made at the discretion of the minister, and the process can even occur without a hearing. Since coming into effect, Bill C-24 has been the subject of much debate among both civil society organisations and political parties, and emerged as a prominent issue in the recent federal election. During the September 28th Monk foreign policy debate, Harper reaffirmed the Conservative Party's position.
Will and have revoked the citizenship of people who are convicted of terrorist offenses who do not need to remain to be our citizens. There is no reason why we would not do that.
Meanwhile, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau denounced the bill.
That we recognize that someone can be judged differently by our system of laws and rights because their parents were born in a different country. That is not Canadian.
During the campaign, NDP leader Tom Mulcair also expressed opposition for the bill and the discourse surrounding it, vowing to repeal it.
I find it lamentable that in a free and democratic society, someone takes joy in saying that we're going to have two levels of citizenship. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian.
Civil society has also been vocal in its criticisms and concerns regarding the bill. The British Columbia Civil Liberties Association stated that dividing people into different classes that receive different treatment under the law is unfair and un-Canadian. Bill C-24 has turned millions of Canadians into second-class citizens with reduced rights, and as a result, has reduced the value of Canadian citizenship. What are the most important human rights concerns stemming from Bill C-24? We consulted United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Human Rights of Migrants and McGill Faculty of Law Professor François Crépeau.
Well, there's a number of issues. The biggest human rights concern is statelessness. If one person is rendered stateless, technically stateless, by the use of Bill C-24, that's the most important human rights violation that this bill will create. I think the other issue that I see is that it creates two kinds of citizens. Canadian citizens are not equal anymore.
Arguably, citizenship is one of the most fundamental human rights. States are primarily responsible for protecting and enforcing all of our other human rights, and citizenship provides access to that protection. The importance of this right is recognised in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states in Article 15 that everyone has the right to a nationality, and no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality nor denied the right to change his nationality. However, Citizenship and Immigration Minister Chris Alexander has defended his bill by arguing that citizenship is in fact a privilege, not a right, stating, "Citizenship is not an inalienable birthright. It was created by successive acts of Parliament. It is a privilege." Canadian and international law both protect people from statelessness in various ways, and Bill C-24 is legally problematic for a number of reasons. Bill C-24 may infringe Section 6 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which states every citizen of Canada has the right to enter, remain in, and leave Canada. Although there is a clear distinction here between citizens and non-citizens, the Charter makes no distinction between Canadians born in Canada and naturalised Canadians. In fact, making that distinction almost certainly infringes the equality rights protected by Section 15. Bill C-24 may also implicate the protection against cruel and unusual punishment under Section 12 and the right to life, liberty, and security of the person under Section 7. Bill C-24 may also infringe international human rights treaties to which Canada is a party. The main relevant instrument here is the Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. Canada acceded to this convention on July 17, 1978. In general, the convention prohibits withdrawing someone's citizenship when doing so would make that person stateless, but there are exceptions to the rule that no one should ever be made stateless. Article 8, paragraph 1 reads, "A contracting state shall not deprive a person of its nationality if such deprivation would render him stateless," but paragraphs 2 and 3 carve out exceptions. Notably, according to paragraph 3, a contracting state is permitted to deprive someone of his or her citizenship if that person was disloyal and conducted him or herself in a manner that is seriously prejudicial to the interests of the state. However, this only applies to contracting states who chose to retain this right at the time when it signed, ratified, or acceded to the convention. Canada did not choose to retain this right to deprive people of their citizenship and render them stateless for disloyalty. Any Canadian law that permits Canada to render someone stateless for disloyalty is inconsistent with Canada's obligations under the Convention. Properly applied, Bill C-24 should not render anyone stateless. Indeed, according to Minister Alexander, "We will never make Canadians stateless, but we are under no obligation to maintain the Canadian citizenship of those who betray it while holding other nationalities." But if the burden is on the person being deprived of citizenship to prove that he or she is not eligible for citizenship in another country, some people may fall through the cracks. At the very least, there is a risk that Bill C-24 infringes Article 8 of the Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. Even if international law protects against statelessness in theory, in practice, the Convention is likely unenforceable. However, according to Professor Crépeau, there are other ways to protect people from the potential human rights violations that the bill could produce.
If it is, as I think, litigated, and there is a demonstration during the litigation that the person would be stateless, despite what the Canadian government can say, I think very quickly the courts will shut down the door. I mean, they will shut the door. They will say, no, you can't do this.
In addition to the human rights issues already discussed, other aspects of Bill C-24 provoke further cause for concern. Terrorism, treason, and espionage, the offences necessary for revocation of Canadian citizenship, are very broadly defined. Bill C-24 does not provide any rigorous control mechanisms to prevent citizenship revocation being abused and applied arbitrarily in future. We can see the realities of this danger, particularly when looking to terrorism. Mohamed Fahmy, a journalist convicted of terrorism in Egypt, is eligible to have his Canadian citizenship stripped under Bill C-24. Whilst it has been officially stated that Mohamed Fahmy will not have his citizenship revoked in this instance, it is worrying that the possibility to do so remains. It is also worth noting that the Harper government had been very generous in branding particular groups as terrorists, including both Aboriginal and environmental activists. This therefore seemed a slippery slope in which to introduce Bill C-24. As raised by both the BC Civil Liberties Association and Professor Crépeau, the issue of Bill C-24's broad application also has potentially dangerous consequences regarding the creation of second-class citizens. While this new inequality has already been marked as a problem, the Toronto Star has recently highlighted an extra element to this concern that risks discriminating specifically against those of Jewish faith. The law of return, which is part of Israeli legislation, allows all Jews to be granted Israeli citizenship. In 1970, this right was further extended to various family members of Jews. This broad scope renders all Jewish and many non-Jewish Canadians eligible for a right of citizenship abroad, and therefore a second-class citizen of Canada, regardless of the fact that they may never have been to Israel or consider themselves a practicing Jew. However, as Canada has recently elected a Liberal government under Trudeau, it remains to be seen whether Bill C-24 will continue to exist with such worrying implications for the future and people such as Sad Gaia.